Daily Dictation. This is an interactive video to help you practice your English skills. You will do that by listening to 5 sentences. I will read each sentence about the topic of winter fun at a low intermediate level. After I finish reading each sentence, then I will write here and show you what each sentence looks like correctly written. And as you write them down, you can see your mistakes. During this time, I'll also talk about some of the common spelling errors, any spelling tips and tricks, as well as some grammar concepts as well. So let's get started. This is a skill that is best developed if it's practiced every day. So there's new sentences each weekday, new topics each week, and 2 English levels offered. The instructions for this activity. You will need a blank piece of paper and a pencil. 5 sentences will be read. Each sentence will be read 3 times and 1 more time at the end. You have to write down each sentence exactly as you hear it, and you will use your listening skills to do this. Try your best to apply the correct spelling, punctuation, and capitalization. On the screen, you're going to see numbers 1 to 5. Each number represents a different sentence that will be read. We'll start with sentence number 1. Number 1. The kids built a snowman and shivered in the cold. The kids built a snowman and shivered in the cold. The kids built a snowman and shivered in the cold. Number 2. After the snowfall, we decided to ski. After the snowfall, we decided to ski. After the snowfall, we decided to ski. Number 3. He put the sled outside the small igloo. He put the sled outside the small igloo. He put the sled outside the small igloo. Number 4. She wore a thin coat instead of her heavy parka. She wore a thin coat instead of her heavy parka. She wore a thin coat instead of her heavy parka. Number 5. The flurries covered the frozen lake quickly. The flurries covered the frozen lake quickly. The flurries covered the frozen lake quickly. Now I will read each sentence one more time, starting with sentence number 1. The kids built a snowman and shivered in the cold. Number 2. After the snowfall, we decided to ski. Number 3. He put the sled outside the small igloo. Number 4. She wore a thin coat instead of her heavy parka. Number 5. The flurries covered the frozen lake quickly. All right, great job, everyone. We're going to get ready to have a look at our sentences. Now, if you found that this video is a little bit too fast, I recommend that you listen again. And you can listen again and slow it down by adjusting the playback speed in the settings of the video. If you need to listen to specific sentences again, just check the description for timestamps, and this will help you listen to specific sentence numbers. Now let's look at each sentence, starting with number 1. The kids built a snowman and shivered in the cold. For this one, the kids is the subject. Built is the verb. It's an irregular verb, so we have a T at the end. A snowman is the object. Now we have another clause here. So we have the coordinating conjunction and, but these two sentences are so closely related that we actually don't need a comma here. Only when they're really long and not very closely related do we need a comma. But we are going to keep it the same tense, so we see it past here, so it's going to be past here. The most difficult thing about the spelling here is remembering that snowman is one word. Typically in English, if it represents one thing, one object, it will be one word. So snowman is one object, so it is going to be one word. So if you didn't get that correct, make sure you practice it. Number 2. After the snowfall, we decided to ski. Now, we do have two clauses here, which is a little bit more tricky. So we're starting with a subordinating conjunction right at the beginning here, which shows us that this is a dependent clause. So we're starting with the dependent clause. So as soon as the dependent clause finishes, we do need a comma. The next thing we see, we decided to ski. This is an independent clause. And so we just have to remember this comma because it's dependent first, independent second. And we have the subject, then we have the verb, then we have an infinitive here. So the most difficult thing about the spelling is that we have to remember, just like snowman, even though snow is a word and fall is a word, we're going to put it together because it represents one thing. Number 3, he put the sled outside the small igloo. This is actually one clause. It just has a preposition to extend it a little bit, so it seems really long, but it's just one single clause in a long sentence. He is the subject, put is the verb, the sled is the object, outside is a preposition, and it says outside what? Outside the small igloo. So we just have another adjective here, or one adjective here for the noun igloo. All right, so the most difficult word here to spell is igloo. Igloo is a really uncommon word in English, so I would split it up like this, igloo, really focusing on these two O's. Number 4, she wore a thin coat instead of her heavy parka. So for this one, we have a choice with the word instead. This is option 1, a thin coat, and this is option 2, heavy parka. Subject is she, wore is the verb. When we use the word instead, we often use of to follow to show that we've chosen one option over the other option. Now, one of the most difficult things to spell in this one, everything should be okay. Hopefully you're able to spell it instead right. Parka might have been hard because it's not a very common word unless you live in a really cold country. Even in a really cold country, like in Canada, we say parka sometimes, but we usually still say coat or jacket. And so parka is exactly how it sounds. So just spell it out and it's spelled exactly how it sounds. And number 5, the flurries covered the frozen lake quickly. So for this one, the flurries is the subject. Covered is the main verb in the simple past tense. The frozen lake is the object. And then it's telling us in what manner. So we're using this adverb here to modify the verb covered. And we know it's an adverb because it ends in ly. Flurries might have been a difficult word to spell for this one. If it was difficult, you can split it in half. Fleur, rees. And one of the more difficult things is, first of all, the double R is quite tricky. And then the singular form of flurries ends with a Y. But the rule in English is if you're going to add an S on a word that ends in Y, to make it plural or to change the verb form, then you're going to take away the I and make IES. So that is why we have IES here. So that is an overview of some of the sentences, some of the grammar structures that you see. The bold words are the words that we are focusing on this week. Let me show you a better list of them. So the words you're going to want to focus on related to this topic: flurries, igloo, snowman, coat, sled, ski, parka, snowfall, shiver, frozen. So make sure that you review these words. Make sure you know how to spell them when you're writing. Make sure that you know how to pronounce them when you're speaking. They are really good to know if you plan on taking IELTS and you live in a cold country. They could also come up in different portions of IELTS, so it is good to practice their spelling, know what kind of grammar is associated with them and how to fit them into various sentence structures, use their different word forms, and things like that. Besides that, we are all finished for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.